Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I'm going to talk about the ingredient Azelaic acid, which has been extremely popular those past few years. So popular that you can find it in so many brands now. And I consider this ingredient to be magic because it can work for so many skin issues and skin diseases like melasma, hyperpigmentation, rosacea, acne, redness. Also, what is special about azelaic acid is that it is one of those very rare, effective, active that can be used during pregnancy and breastfeeding. So on paper, it seems magical. But it can be magical only if you understand what it is, if you understand how to use it, and if you understand how to find the right product for you. Because although it is used by many brands in their products, each product has a different formula with other ingredients that will not work for everyone. So in my video, I'm going to try to tell you everything you need to know about azelaic acid in order to find the right product for you. And trust me, because I've been using and trying and testing this ingredient for 8 years. Azelaic acid has become popular to the general public for the past few years only. Although it is not a new ingredient, it has been used as a drug since the 80s, and depending on where you live in the world, the drug brand name is going to be different, but behind the brand, behind the name, it's the same ingredient, azelaic acid. So when you look at the studies and the history of the ingredient as a drug, you can tell that it has been first prescribed for acne patients, but quickly it was prescribed for people who suffer from rosacea, and more recently it is also used in medicine for people who suffer from hyperpigmentation, including melasma. Azelaic acid has a different biologically pathway to impact the skin in different ways in order to help with the different conditions I talked about in the introduction. As a drug, as a medication, the concentration of azelaic acid that you can find varies from 15 to 20%. And it is important to realize that you can find it as a drug because depending on where you live, that means that if you go to your dermatologist, they can prescribe you azelaic acid. And again, depending on where you live, your health insurance might reimburse you this drug, which in the end will be cheaper for you than to buy the cosmetic products that we can find now almost everywhere. The good thing about the fact that it was a drug first is the fact that drugs, in order to be used on the market, have to be thoroughly independently tested to make sure that first they are safe but also efficient. And that is not the case of random cosmetic ingredients, where usually it is the brand that tells you that it is efficient, but there is no independent testing. Obviously and unfortunately, even when it comes to medication, not all medication is going to work for everyone, but there is enough evidence to think that it is going to work for many people. Azelaic acid is produced naturally by our body, but it can also be found in different types of cereals. Now, the type of azelaic acid that is used in drugs or in cosmetic products is not a natural type of azelaic acid. It has been made synthetically by a lab. When I was looking for how it looks, I found this picture of a white powder which explains the difficulty with azelaic acid, which I'm gonna explain now. So for years, azelaic acid was used in drugs, but not in cosmetic products. And when I found out about this ingredient 9 years ago, thanks to a post on the Telegraph, which was led by the UK dermatologist Dr. Bunting, I was surprised that I had never heard about azelaic acid and started to wonder why. But when I looked into it more, I learned that it was at the time very difficult to formulate a product with azelaic acid in order to get a nice texture, a nice formulation. And in order to sell a cosmetic product, the final result needs to be cosmetically elegant enough. What I learned is that because azelaic acid comes in this powder form, it is difficult to get a smooth formula. The formula tends to be gritty, which was not appealing for any brands to use it. After seeing this post on the Telegraph, maybe a year later, I found out that the brand The Ordinary had launched an azelaic acid product, which I've talked about in the past on my channel. So I bought this product, but the texture was really gritty, thick. It looked like a thick primer, and it really was not pleasant to use on the skin. And at the time, there was very few brands that would produce azelaic acid product. But throughout those past few years, I noticed more and more brands selling product with azelaic acid with formula which were more aesthetically pleasant, including The Ordinary, which has reformulated their azelaic acid product a few years ago. And I remember when I was seeing all those brands selling their azelaic acid product without this gritty formula, I was wondering what happened for all those brands to be able to have this nice texture. And when I looked into it, I realized that during the same time period, there is a company called Azeco, which is a manufacturer brand. So the job is to create and make ingredients and then sell those ingredients to brands that will make the final product. So when I looked into it, I noticed that they started selling a new version of azelaic acid, which they say is micronized powder. So it's much more thinner than what it used to be. And as a consequence, when you use it in a formula, the final formula is more cosmetically elegant. But before I tell you about my personal experience with those different products, I want to show you how you can, for yourself, choose which formula, which product is more likely to work for you. So let's start with a large sample of azelaic acid products. And when you see them, you may think that any of those products are going to work for you, but those products are different and better or worse depending on your skin type and depending on your skin issue. So let's look more into it, and you will see, as I explained earlier, that you can find different concentration of azelaic acid. 15% is the drug level, and 10% is what you often find among cosmetic products. As a drug, azelaic acid has been tested from 15 to 20%, as I said earlier, but that does not mean that you can't benefit from it at 10% either. I know, for instance, that I do benefit from azelaic acid at 10% as well. But let's say that you've never tried azelaic acid and you have very sensitive skin, then maybe you will try 10%, and if it works for you, and if 15% is available in your country, then you can go up to 15% and see if you get better result. You also have some products that instead of using azelaic acid, use a derivative of azelaic acid, but I will talk about that later in the video. Beyond the concentration that you have to take in consideration, you also have to take into account the other ingredients in the formula. Obviously, nobody should waste their time looking at all the other ingredients in the formula, but those formula can have important other actives or important other ingredients. First, as I explained, what is good about azelaic acid is that, contrary to other actives that can perform the same way, it tends to be more gentler on the skin. So to me, this ingredient is particularly interesting for people who have issues but also have sensitive skin. So when I see products which in their formula contains other ingredients which are known to be irritating to the skin, for me, these are not good azelaic acid products. If you contain drying alcohol or fragrances in your products, but you also contain azelaic acid, in my opinion, you are not making sense. It makes sense to use azelaic acid in your formula if at the same time, at least, you don't use the most known irritating ingredients, which are fragrance, essential oils, or drying alcohol. So to me, those products should be eliminated from the list of everyone who is looking to benefit from azelaic acid. The second type of products that for me should be eliminated from this list are products that do not provide the concentration of azelaic acid. Because as I said, it is known to be effective from 15 to 20% as a drug. So it is a high concentration. So in cosmetic, depending on the country, you can only go up to 15% or below 15%. From what I've told you, you should understand that the concentration still should be high enough and as close as possible to 10 or 15% to hope to see results. So if I look for an effective azelaic product, but the brand does not give me information on the concentration, I may waste my time. Because if the concentration is 5% or 6%, but I am looking for results on acne type skin or rosacea type skin, I am more likely to waste my time compared to other products with higher concentration. So to me, products who do not provide the concentration should be eliminated because they are a waste of time and by default a waste of money. Now that I have eliminated the most useless products of this list, let's focus on the products that use the derivative azelaic acid ingredients. And when I was looking into it, I realized that there isn't much studies on azelaic acid derivative and how efficient it is compared to azelaic acid, which has been studied very intensely since at least the 80s. So on paper, it's impossible to tell you if it is as good as azelaic acid or not. So you might be wondering, why do brands use a derivative? And that comes to the fact that, as I told you, azelaic acid is difficult to formulate. And although it has been improved by this manufacturer, Azeco, which I told you about, that does not mean that the formula are perfect. That does not mean that the formula are super elegant. If you use a serum with azelaic acid, you will realize that although the texture is not necessarily gritty, often it's not a super smooth texture, it's not an hydrating texture, it gives a weird feeling, and that is not the case with a derivative of azelaic acid. I will tell you later in the video my result with a derivative, but from what I've seen online from other people, some people truly enjoy the derivative as much as azelaic acid itself, and they also enjoy the result. So you have to try it to see for yourself. But what I can tell you is that usually the formula are more aesthetically elegant and less drying. When you look at other actives, you will often see associated with azelaic acid the ingredient salicylic acid. Salicylic acid is a good ingredient for people who suffer from acne or oily skin, but salicylic acid is an ingredient that should be avoided if you are pregnant or if you are breastfeeding. That's why in my introduction I told you that you have to be careful when you buy a product with azelaic acid because they are all different. But if you suffer from acne and if your skin loves salicylic acid, then you should focus on the formulas which contain both azelaic acid and salicylic acid. On the screen, you can see that there is a product that is different from the other ones when it comes to focusing on acne or oil control. The other products used salicylic acid, and this product, which is from a French brand, is this Pharma with a bright green arrow. Uses another ingredient to control sebum that is called butyl avocadate. I've never tried this ingredient, but it is interesting to know if you can't handle salicylic acid that you can find other formula for oily skin which focus particularly on acne that can help control sebum while not using salicylic acid. Next, I want to show you the formula which on paper seems to be the more efficient when it comes to target hyperpigmentation. Azelaic acid by itself has been proven to work to fight against hyperpigmentation, including melasma. But when it comes to cosmetic formula, you can use other actives on top of azelaic acid to fight hyperpigmentation. And here I gave you a few examples with other ingredients known to fight hyperpigmentation like niacinamide, kojic acid, glycolic acid, licorice roots extracts. So if your main focus is to fight hyperpigmentation, then you should focus on trying and testing those type of products first. Having other active ingredients can be great to get better results, but if your skin is extremely sensitive, maybe it's better to not have other potential irritating actives. Maybe it's better to have nothing or just actives that can help soothe the skin better. And that is the case with formulas which contain actives like oat or avena sativa or niacinamide, which although is an active that can fight hyperpigmentation, it is also an active that can help soothe sensitive skin. So you have several options with formula which try to be the most suitable possible for sensitive skin. And obviously that would include people who suffer from rosacea because they have the most sensitive skin type. And here again, when it comes to the French brand Isis Pharma, which I'm going to highlight here with a bright green arrow, they make an azelaic acid product that is specifically designed for rosacea. So what I like about this brand is that they took into account the need of people who suffer from acne and people who suffer from rosacea. And people who suffer from acne have oily skin, and people who suffer from rosacea often have dry skin. So the needs are opposite. And although azelaic acid by itself can work both on those issues, the other ingredients that are added in the formula should be different depending on if you have dry skin or oily skin. So I like that with this brand, they made two different formulas for those two different types of skin. So sometimes brands are specific to who exactly they target, but most of the time they are not. With all of those explanations, I hope that you understand better what type of azelaic acid can benefit you. Now, from all of those products I've just shown you as an example, for my skin type and my needs, there are only 6 products that I think may work for me. For the product from the brand Typology, I put an interrogation mark because there is an ingredient in the formula that I have never used on my skin. And if you follow my channel, you know that I have extremely sensitive skin and I never know how my skin is going to react to new ingredients, especially natural type ingredient. So it may irritate my sensitive skin. The other products which I have highlighted with the green arrow on paper should work for my skin. I eliminated all the other ones because they all contain ingredients which I know for sure would irritate my skin or would create acne on my skin, so I can't use them. Before I review every azelaic acid product I've tried, I want you to know what are my personal results with azelaic acid. First, when I try any azelaic acid products, whether they have a 10% concentration or a 15% concentration, I often find at the beginning, not always, but very often, I often get some stingings on my skin while I apply the product on my face, but usually the stinging is not strong and it does not last. What I noticed quite quickly is that my skin becomes less sensitive, and it's probably due to the fact that azelaic acid has anti-inflammatory properties, which is why it is also recommended for people with the most sensitive skin type, which are people who suffer from rosacea. And I noticed that because I have less blemishes. I have acne-prone skin because I have an oily skin type, which if it's not taken care of properly, I can easily get blackheads and whiteheads because of clogged pores. But I also get blemishes when my skin gets irritated, and my sensitive skin can be irritated by many things. And when I use azelaic acid, especially long term, I notice that my skin is overall less irritated. Having less blemishes for my skin comes from the fact that my skin is being less inflamed because it is less sensitive. So quite quickly, within a week, if for some reason I'm having more blemishes than over time, then they will be gone quite quickly. Another thing that I notice quite quickly when I use azelaic acid product is that my overall skin tone becomes more even. And here I'm not talking about specific dark spots, I'm talking about the overall skin tone that sometimes can be dull and gray and even with some dark patches here, lighter patches there. And when I use azelaic acid, probably maybe after 3 to 4 weeks, maybe even 2 weeks, I can see my skin being overall more even. And if you watch my channel, you know that that's also what I say about niacinamide. I made a full video about niacinamide similar to this one, and I say the same thing. I see the same overall evening out of my skin complexion with azelaic acid than niacinamide. The other thing that I would notice with all azelaic acid products, except from the derivative, which I'm going to talk about later in the video, is that any formula you would try are not moisturizing formula. Azelaic acid is not a moisturizing ingredient, and it seems difficult for brands to make the entire formula moisturizing because the concentration that is needed is so high that it seems difficult to have enough actives to make the concentration moisturizing. So if you try an azelaic acid product, do not expect the serum to be moisturizing on your skin. You will have to use other products to moisturize your skin. And the texture is usually not a super smooth, luxurious texture because of the reason I explained earlier. Azelaic acid is not easy to formulate, even with the new micronized version. One thing that I noticed with azelaic acid over time is that my skin produces less oil. For me, it was a little bit less oily, but enough for me to notice a difference. And with one of the formula that I'm going to show you, one thing I noticed as well on my skin is less hyperpigmentation, and this time I am talking about specifically dark spots. The formula that I will show you has over hyperpigmentation fighting ingredients in addition to azelaic acid. So it seems that for my skin, azelaic acid on itself does not fight my dark spots, but when it is associated with the right over actives, it helps to make my dark spots go away faster. If you have any questions, if I'm not clear, let me know. Now, let me review each product. As I explained earlier in the video, I started to try and test azelaic acid products around 2018, and I started with the original first version of the azelaic acid product from the brand The Ordinary. And as I explained, the first version had a texture that was really gritty, not enjoyable to use and apply on the skin. So I was not able to assess the efficiency of azelaic acid on my skin with this product, but still I decided to use it for at least 2 weeks to see how my sensitive skin would react to the ingredient, and I didn't have any reaction. So for me, that was a good sign. And the formula of the azelaic acid product from The Ordinary was a very simple formula with azelaic acid as the main and only active. So as I realized that my skin could handle azelaic acid, that motivated me to look for other products. And to my surprise, the other product I found back in the days was from a French brand, which is called Ducray. I randomly find out about it while I was looking in a French pharmacy. It's a product that fights hyperpigmentation, that fights dark spots. And when I looked at the ingredient list, I saw azelaic acid as an ingredient in it. So I decided to give it a try. And I tried it, but quite quickly I noticed that I would get blemishes. So it was surprising to me until I looked at the full ingredient list and noticed that glycolic acid is also an active in this formula. At the time, I didn't pay as much attention at all the actives in the formula. So I thought that because azelaic acid had been working for me, that every formulation would work for me. And that's how I learned that it's not the case. At the time, I already knew that my skin does not like glycolic acid when I use it in a product that stays on the skin, like a serum, like a cream, a toner, or a moisturizer. So in the end, it was not surprising that my skin reacted badly to this product, which was very unfortunate for me because it seems like a great idea to associate glycolic acid with azelaic acid to fight hyperpigmentation, but my skin can't handle it. So this product was a fail for me for those reasons. The third product I tried with azelaic acid used to be called Garden of Wisdom, but now it is called Dose. And I tried their 10% azelaic acid serum. It has a simple formula, and that's the first time I could see the benefit of azelaic acid because I had no reaction with this product. My skin handled it quite well, and the difference I saw in my skin was that my blemishes were way less. So I could see the benefit for my acne-prone skin. And over time, actually, I would say quite quickly, around 4 weeks, I noticed that my skin would get overall more even. When it comes to this, it reminded me of how my skin reacts to niacinamide. Niacinamide on its own helps me to even out my overall skin complexion. So I am not talking about specific dark spots, but the overall complexion is more even out. And I noticed the same thing with azelaic acid when I was able to use it long term. But I must say that for me, I see a difference quite quickly when I use azelaic acid. So I was really happy when I was using this product, and I bought this product multiple times. One thing I had an issue with was that over time, the texture would change. So at the beginning, it was a kind of creamy texture that felt a little bit dry when it was applied on the skin. But over time, before I was able to finish the product, the texture would get a little gritty. So it was not pleasant. And that's the reason I decided to try other type of azelaic acid. Now, I used this product many years ago, so maybe the formula has changed. Maybe it's better now, especially since I told you that the ingredient azelaic acid has been improved by manufacturer to make it easier to be used in cosmetic formula to get elegant and aesthetically pleasing consistencies. So maybe it's different, but at the time, that's the issue I had with this one. The next product I tried was from the brand Dr. Sam's Bunting. And I was very happy when she launched her product with azelaic acid because, as I said earlier, I discovered this ingredient in 2016 thanks to a video that she made for the British magazine Telegraph. And a few years later, she launched her brand, and at some point she launched her Brightening serum, which is made with 10% of azelaic acid. This serum has other ingredients. It also has niacinamide, it also has bakuchiol, and the other ingredients are also ingredients that should help with hyperpigmentation. So with this product, I had the same result as the previous one, which means that my overall skin tone is more even out. I have way less blemishes when I use it. My skin reacts well to this product. I bought this product again and again multiple times. The first time I bought it, when I was reaching the end of the product, again the texture would change, but this time it was different. It almost felt like it would get crystallized after several months, but I didn't have the same issue with the last products I bought from this brand. So I am also wondering if they did something in the formula to make it cosmetically elegant until you reach the end of the product. Either way, the other difference I noticed with this product, which I have not noticed with any of the azelaic acid products I'm going to show you in this video, is the fact that it also helps with my dark spots, which I can get when I get blemishes on my face. If I have a blemish, no matter what I do, no matter if I don't touch it, it will leave a dark mark. If I touch it, the dark mark will be darker, but still it will leave a dark mark. So I always have to fight hyperpigmentation. And with this product, I clearly noticed that my dark spots will go away much faster. I was so happy with this one that I bought it multiple times, but it is not a cheap product. So at some point when I learned that the brand Geek and Gorgeous, which is a brand which I really like, launched an azelaic acid product, I was absolutely interested. I bought it soon after it was launched. Instead of making a pure azelaic acid serum, they made a serum with a derivative of azelaic acid, which I talked about earlier, which is supposed to make the texture more elegant and easy to use. I reviewed this product a few years ago already on my channel, and unfortunately it did not work for me. The texture is super pleasing. It is way more aesthetically elegant than the other product. This product is an old bottle, and still when I touch the texture, it is still aesthetically pleasing. It is still smooth. But when I used it on my skin, pretty quickly I noticed that I would actually break out more than I usually do. And I tested it several times in different ways at different times because I was hoping that it would work for my skin, because this formula is cheaper than the one from Dr. Sam's Bunting. But no matter what I did, this product makes me break out. I saw multiple reviews of this product and I didn't see anyone breaking out because of this product. But as I said earlier, I have a very sensitive skin type, and it seems that although my skin can handle azelaic acid, it can't handle an azelaic acid derivative. It's not for me. The fifth product I've tried with azelaic acid is the serum from the brand Theramid. I've already talked about this product on my channel. I bought it several times. This product contains 15% of azelaic acid. In Europe, you can have a 15% concentration, similar to some medication. But as I said earlier, in the US, usually the concentration has to be lower than 15%, and very often you can only find 10%. In addition to azelaic acid, this product contains Avena sativa, which is an active that is good for sensitive skin. Although this product has a 15% concentration, I did not have a problem with this product. My skin really loves it. You can feel that although it contains water, it feels like a dry liquid formula. So the texture is not perfect, but it works. It works in a way where I have way less blemishes, smoother skin texture, and overall skin tone. Although the concentration of this one is higher than the product from Dr. Sam's Bunting, when it comes to dark spots specifically, with my result, Dr. Sam's Bunting still wins. Probably because it has over hyperpigmentation fighting ingredients in the formula. That's the only conclusion I can make. I love this product. I can repurchase this product, and that is actually the product I use at the moment. But at the end of the video, I will tell you how I use it now, because I used to use azelaic acid all over my face, but I use it differently now. Okay, I still have 3 products to show you before I tell you more. So the next product I tried was the azelaic acid serum from the brand Aroma, which is a French brand. So that's the one I tried 2 years ago, I think. And I was happy to see an azelaic acid serum at such an affordable price. I looked at the ingredient list and saw nothing that could bother my skin. I used it one night. I had no problem. I used it a second night, and then the next day I could see blemishes on my face. And I was like, okay, that's weird, because this is azelaic acid. This ingredient is supposed to work for me. So I thought maybe it's just my skin randomly breaking out. That happens sometimes. So I tried it again, and every time I would try it, I would get more blemishes. Every time I would stop, I would get less. So there was definitely something going on with this product. So I took the time to look into the ingredient list more, and I realized that I made a mistake, because there is an ingredient that I know my skin does not like, and it is salicylic acid. I showed you earlier in the video that many azelaic acid serum also contains salicylic acid in it, and I already knew about that when I bought this product. The problem with this product is that they use a natural version of salicylic acid that is called Salix Ligra, and I'm not familiar enough with the natural name of salicylic acid, although I knew about it, but I don't see it often, so I forgot about it when I looked at the formula. I did not pay attention because it was not written salicylic acid, so I thought I was good, but I was not. So I learned that on top of salicylic acid, my skin does not like the natural version of salicylic acid either, because my skin does not like this product. But if you have oily skin and acne-prone skin, and of course if your skin can handle salicylic acid, unlike mine, this product is worth it, especially when you look at the price. I have 2 products left. So now we have another French brand. The brand is AZM. The product is Azéane, and it contains 15% of azelaic acid. So when I bought it, I knew my skin could handle 15% of azelaic acid thanks to the Theramid serum I had already tried, and it works for me. And this product is cheaper than the Theramid serum, so I thought I found a cheaper version. I was really confident when I used this product, but unfortunately, quite quickly I noticed that my skin would break out more when I was using this product. I don't know what it is about it. Maybe there is another ingredient in it that my skin can't handle, but I looked into it. The ingredient list is not long, and there is nothing new that my skin had not used before. Or maybe my skin does not like the texture of this product. This product is more like a cream than a serum, and as I often explain on my videos, the type of skincare products that tend to break me out the most are moisturizers. I don't know what it is about it, but some texture seems to break me out, and I can't know exactly what it is because it's probably due to the concentration of some ingredients which are not disclosed. Maybe some concentration of ingredients in creams clogged my pores. I don't know. So I have no explanation. I just know that this product does not work for me, although on paper it seems perfect, but it does not work for me. That's all I can say about it. The last product that I've tried is from the brand Q+A. I've talked several times about this brand on my channel. This is a British brand, and I tried their Azelaic acid serum, and although the concentration is lower than the 15% that I like from Theramid, when I use it on my skin, it tends to sting a little bit more, although the concentration is lower. So I don't know if it is because the pH is lower, I don't know what it is. In this formula, they have a few natural ingredients which I have never used on my skin. And I'm saying that because also with this product, I noticed that my skin would break out more than normal. So instead of reducing breakouts, I have more breakouts. And I don't know what it is exactly in the formula because I know that the concentration is not too strong. There is no other actives in it that could irritate my skin like glycolic acid or salicylic acid. The texture is very similar to other azelaic acid product. It's more like a light creamy texture that is similar to many serums. It's not thick at all, unlike the previous formula. So the only thing I can think of that may upset my skin are those natural ingredients. And as I said earlier in the video when I was talking about a serum from the brand Typology with a natural ingredient in it which I had never used, natural ingredients can irritate sensitive skin. So maybe that's the reason I break out with this product. But you can see that among the 9 products I have tried, which I thought would work for me, because if I bought them, it's because I thought they would work for my skin. Then you notice that not all of them worked for me. But when I found an azelaic acid product that works for me, it works very well. Azelaic acid is an ingredient that can be used day and night, but over time I quickly noticed that for my skin it was better to use it at night time, because as I said earlier, the texture is not the most pleasing, so I don't like to use it in the morning and then apply my sunscreen or my makeup on top. I have oily skin, so it's already difficult to find the right product to work for my skin. So in the morning I prefer to use formulas which are aesthetically elegant and that would work with my makeup. So when I used it, I would use it in the evening every day. And now I don't use azelaic acid every day anymore because I am using a product with guanactive retinoid, which is also good for acne, for hyperpigmentation, and for anti-aging. So that's what I use at night every day. And I use azelaic acid sometimes in the morning if I see some beginning of a blemish. So in order to target the blemishes specifically, I use azelaic acid as a spot treatment in order to make those blemishes go away faster. That's how I use azelaic acid now. And let's say if for some reason my skin is acting weird and my skin is being more sensitive or inflamed, which had happened in the past, and I see more blemishes than normal on my skin, then I will stop with the guanactive retinol and use azelaic acid, because when it comes to acne, azelaic acid works better on my skin than guanactive retinoid. But for my daily basis and for the low level of acne that I usually have now, guanactive retinoid is enough. I hope it was clear. If it's not, just let me know in the comment section. I love to read your comments. Also, please, in the comment section, let us know if you have ever used azelaic acid on your skin. Let us know what was your own results, what combination of actives with azelaic acid works better for you. I want to know everything. I hope you now understand everything about azelaic acid. I told you everything I know. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Bye bye.